Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you right now. I've been sitting in my room for a while now, talking about how I've gotten a candle and a Hawaiian tea recording this video over 10 times because there's just so much noise everywhere. So, for the love of God, I hope this is the last time I have to do this so I can do something a little bit more productive. But anyway, let's get straight to the point of this video, which is humility, be humble, okay? Now, of course, that doesn't elaborate much on what that exactly means, and we're going to get into that. But first, I want to tell you why should you even be watching this to begin with. I don't want to waste your time. you, you know I want you to learn something, take something out of it as quick as possible. And so I'm going to first of all ask you, the viewer, if you've ever been you, and be honest, okay? Have you ever been in a scenario where you've undervalued yourself to a very, very high degree, maybe? Like very, very nihilistic, or very, very, how do I say it? You fall deep into despair, right? Or you might, in some scenarios, be off your rocker. Your ego is way through the roof. And it's out of control to the point where you think you're the shit and God made you the best in the world, and it affects your ability to do like several different things. And you might not think so, but I'll explain exactly why. And I'll explain why both of these sides are bad, even if it's obvious, right? Because, you know, we already have some thought processes that tell us, oh, that's bad, that's good, that's this, or whatnot, but how to also avoid them. And I think that's the biggest thing. So, the answer to both of those mindsets. So, if you're someone who has a proclivity to think very, very negatively, right? You're naturally, I think, going to want the answer to this. But if you're someone with a high ego, I'm going to need you to shut up and sit down and watch this, bro. And your brain's going to tell you, no, you're too good for it, that you don't want to. And because you think your ego is helping you in some way, it's not. I'll explain why, but you have to sit down and watch the video, or else you're not going to know the answer. And you're going to hinder your improvement. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it. You have to sit down and just watch all the way till the end. But let's get straight to it. Why? What's the answer to both of these things? Sometimes I get carried away. What's the answer to both of these things? Humility, right? Why? Now, the question is, why should you know about this? If you're on either side of the spectrum, why should you know about this? It's so you don't fall into complacency and you don't suffer more than you already have. And so now, to address those two, I need you to understand what humility first is. You need to understand what it is. What's the definition? So Google says a modest or low view of one's own importance. Now, I don't completely agree with this definition, and my explanation will tell you why. So, the way I look at humility is like this. Imagine a number line, like the thing we learned in math class and whatnot. Yeah, a little bit important here. So, humility, imagine it being on zero. All right, on zero, so neutral. And then on the positive end, and this doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. If I say negative or positive, it doesn't mean good, bad. It just means like, what side of the scale kind of thing. So positive you have very, very egotistical. You think you're the shit. And negative you're very, very nihilistic. You don't think you're enough. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a mindset to ground yourself and to stay there. And it comes from my understanding of humility and my definition of humility. So my definition of humility is thinking about your own ability to do something with or your importance with the utmost truth and the utmost honesty that you can, and the most in the most objective manner. So like when you think of objectively or truth or honest, you think of just, straight out. It cancels out any sort of ego, and it also cancels out any sort of nihilistic beliefs or thoughts and views, because I think those are heavily the base foundation of both of those beliefs that are counter opposites are both, I think, emotional in nature, right? And they don't allow you to think rationally. So what I'm saying is the closer you get to zero, which is humility, right, is the closer you get to being as rational as possible about your current state in a certain skill, or for example, like how good you are at cooking, how good you are at maybe weightlifting, or how good you are at your schoolwork, or how good you are at a certain video game, those kinds of things. So literally applied to anything and or everything you can apply humility to, right? So let's go back into the concept of why this will help you not suffer as much as you already have, and how this won't help you fall into complacency. So why is it that having a level of humility won't cause you to fall into complacency? Well, it's because, think about it from both perspectives, both ends. If you're very, very nihilistic by nature, you're not going to want to do anything, so you'll fall into complacency. And naturally, if you don't think you're enough, you're all this, you dwell on that emotional. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. You dwell on that emotion. Same thing with a more egotistical side, right? If you spend too long thinking you're the shit, then you're not going to want to learn and or care at all about what anybody else thinks, because you've pedestalized yourself and you think you're above everybody else, right? And so you're not going to be able to take the information that other people have and learn, such as people like me. You're watching this right now, and you are not going to want to implement any of this information because your brain is saying, you're better than this guy. You're better than this guy on the screen wearing a Hawaiian tee with his dumb glasses, That's just the way you think. You're not going to want to do it. You've probably already clicked off this video. So, but if you stayed, applause to you, because I think this is genuinely something that'll help you grow. So yeah, I'll give you a bit of an example, more for the ego side, because I think the nihilistic side is more or less self-explanatory. But say you go to a gym and you're one of the strongest guys there, right? If you're one of the strongest guys there and you say, dude, I'm stronger than all these people, and objectively that might be the case, but you let that be, how do I go about saying this? That kind of mindset is stopping you from being better than the people that go to other gyms that are as strong as you. And if those people learn to implement a level of humility and understand that they're not as good as they could be, you're getting destroyed, dog. They're surpassing you 100%. You are not going to grow because you've already think you've hit the epitome, the apex of what it is to be the top dog, top strength at the gym. So how do you expect yourself to be able to, adopt this mindset of being able to grow and then show a level of humility and say, I'm not that great. Maybe I could lift a lot heavier. Maybe I can have better form. Maybe I can implement a better diet and then increase my performance even more. Because you're too busy comparing yourself to the people that you're already objectively better than. And that's assuming that you're objectively better than them. Because again, if you have a heightened sense of ego, chances are there's some guy that is humble enough to say, you know what, I'm not that strong and I can get stronger. And he's had that mindset for a long time, and he's going to crush you. That's just going to be the case. Now, if you're more nihilistic in nature, I think you need to adopt this mindset, and it'll help you be a bit more stoic in nature, and see things of a perspective of just neutrality. You know, you're not inferior to anyone, but you do have to understand that you're not inferior or superior to anyone, and that helps you gain a level of confidence that allows you to then reflect upon your own mistakes, because that's what it is to show humility. It's to say that you're not so great, and then, you know, be able to look at your mistakes and improve upon them. And I think your ego will always come out and want to enact and want to fight that. Always. So I'll give you an example, right? And I think this was a perfect day to make this video because I went through what I did today. So at work today, and I'll explain why this is an even more perfect example than you think. At work today, you know, I made the mistake, and if for those of you who don't know, I work in a clinic with children who have autism, and I made a mistake of leaving a kid basically unsupervised, right? And so I had to talk to my supervisors about that. They weren't necessarily very happy about it. And in that moment, I was thinking, dude, you know, why is he talking to me like this? Why is he being like this? Why? How dare he? You know, that kind of thing. And, you know, I was just thinking, like, why can they do that? Why does he get to get away with something like that? Just because he's my boss, whatever, you know. But then I realized, as he was talking to me, I was observing what it is I was feeling, and that's that stoicism. I was observing what it is that I was doing, and it was my ego trying to fight him. And because when that level of humility overtook me, when I was mindful about it, and I was trying, and I was able to see more clearly and be a lot more humble about it. I was able to see, dude, I'm actually the one in the wrong right now. I'm the one who made the mistake. And my brain's not letting me own up to it. And this is why it's a perfect example now. Most of you are going to say, well, Shay, you're in that situation because, you know, well, you're going to fake it till you make it because, you know, you have your job on the line. Because if you don't own up to your mistake, then you're going to lose your job. And that's perfectly true. You're right. There is always a possibility of that. But see, that's your issue. You guys would only do it in scenarios where, you know, it's most convenient for you and you have something to lose. You know, you're not willing to do it in other scenarios where you don't necessarily have a lot to lose, or at least you think you don't, but you do, because your inability to think that I can learn from this is going to stop you from really, really progressing, really, really going where it is you need to go and to meet your goals. It is, and I know that sounds like a bunch of words and a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I get it, but in that moment with my mindset, I thought, you know what? He's right. And if I'm able to do it in the moments like that are very, very difficult and hard for me to admit, then I'll be able to learn from people and see that I am not necessarily going to be right all the time. And basically the summary of what I'm trying to say is, your desire to be right, which I have written right here, it says, your desire to be right will affect your ability to be humble. And if it affects your ability to be humble, it'll affect your ability to learn from your mistakes. And if it affects your ability to learn from your mistakes, good luck trying to get anywhere in life. Good luck trying to grow. Good luck trying to become competent in any hierarchy, period. Because you're too busy trying to be right in front of people. You're too busy trying to look like you know something rather than trying to know something. Don't make that mistake. Don't make the mistake that I was about to make, and don't make the mistake that I would previously make, because I could give you previous examples. Again, I'll bring up more video game examples. It happened all the time. Now it's something, again, this is a scenario where I don't have as much of a consequence, right? But it affects my rank within the video game, because most of you know about video games and the ranking system. Now, I don't think it's particularly good to just sit down and play all the time, or I'm just trying to abstain from that period, but I'm using it as an example to tell you that it affected my ability to get a higher rank. Because I couldn't learn from people that were around my rank, or maybe my friends, because I thought I knew better. It's like, oh dude, I could use this hard character against them, oh, if you're just better, you just can, dude. Oh, if you're this, you could do this or that. Like, just trying to say all these things to justify it, when really, like, all I needed to do there was just sit down, listen, feel the discomfort of knowing that I made that mistake. And then you can use that energy of that, the discomfort that you feel, because I did when I was at my job. I did feel that discomfort in front of my supervisor when I was trying to explain. It was hard to explain. It was almost like it was difficult to sit down and be like, damn, I made that mistake. It almost pissed me off. But you should use that not to be pissed at the people that like are trying to teach you, but use that energy to be better. That's it. Use that energy to be a lot better. Now let me see if I have anything else written down that I need to address. And yeah, in turn, what's going to happen is, because you're not trying to be right all the time, and you're being humble, and you're learning, and you're willing to learn and then become a lot better and grow as an individual, you'll suffer less than you did before, and you won't have to suffer as much as you previously were. That is one of the things that's keeping you there. Just imagine that, like, now that entire string of things I just went through, you trying to be right is actually almost making you like pretty much suffer in some ways. So if you learn to not care about just being right and seeing anything that could give you an iota of value and put it to good use, you'll be unstoppable. It's like what I talked about in the mindset of adaptability. This is like a precursor to the mindset of adaptability. You need to be able to be humble first and admit to your mistake, and then be like, okay, cool, I made this mistake. Now I'm learning from it, and then you implement the mindset of adaptability. And then you see what's the best, most efficient route you could take in order to get better with something. Now I think I have a few more points here. So what should you do when like you're in that scenario, right? So anytime you think you know better in a conversation, or you're getting pissed, or you feel your ego, or like even if you're listening to a YouTube video like mine, and in your mind you're like, dude, who is this dickhead, bro? What is he telling me to do? Are you serious right now? What do you do? Do you think you know better? Sit down, feel the discomfort of me calling you out, and understand that it's not because I'm trying to shit on your life. I don't know who you are. I don't even know who's watching this, but I'm talking as if I'm talking to my younger self. I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to tell you that you could open your mind and allow me to help you, so that you could see, okay, maybe I can be a little bit better at this. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was at this. Be as objective as you can about it. Don't get emotional, and don't think you're all this, but don't think you're down here, down in the dumps, and you're not good for nothing, because that's not necessarily true. And I'm not trying to necessarily try to make you feel better when I say that. I mean it. Come as close to zero as you can, which is neutral, which is being able to be humble. Instead of saying, oh, dude, I suck at this, I'm bad. How am I bad? What's going wrong? What's the issue? Why can't I go to the gym enough as much as I want to? Why can't I put myself to work as much as I want to? Okay, let's be a bit more objective about it. I can't sit down and do it for, let's say, 30 minutes. How about I try 15 minutes first and then move up from there? But some of y'all's egos, of course, get in the way and say, oh, 15 minutes, I could do more. And I'm glad you have some sort of a competitive spirit. That's good, but don't try to bite off more than you could chew. Start slow. Show a level of humility. You're not as good as where you could be. Be objective about it. I'm meditating 15 minutes a day. I'm not going to bounce all the way up to an hour. I'm going to be humble about it. I'm going to be like, okay, move up 5 more minutes. Move up 5 more minutes. Move up 5 more minutes. Slow and steady. Good progress. So anytime you feel as if you've thought this way, remember that you watched this video. Remember that, anytime you start having that thought or that those thoughts creep in about like overinflating your sense of worth or underinflating it, like recognize, be like, wait, this guy Shay in the Hawaiian t-shirt, he was like, okay, come closer to 0. Come closer to being humble. How do I do that? Okay. I try to be less emotional about it and see how I can objectively improve on what it is that I need to improve on. Using like time data or otherwise like duration data or trying to start slow. You're not above doing these things. If you're bad at disciplining yourself, be humble about it. Be like, okay, let me go do my bed sheets. Something simple. Start up a snowball effect. And honestly, the best way to address it constantly is just journal. Same thing I say all the time. I sound like a broken record saying it at this point. But like I said, journal. There's massive value in it. Because you get to, you know how you listen to music and the artist perfectly articulate how you might be feeling or how you might want to feel. The same exact thing is what happens when you journal. You articulate how it is that you're feeling in these emotional proclivities that you're having on both sides. You journal about that, and then you journal about what's the solution. That I'm not so great, but that isn't a bad thing. It is a good thing that should get me excited to improve. That's how it needs to be seen. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. To be honest, yeah, I don't see anything else. Yeah. Alright, we're good. Alright, that's all I wanted to say. Peace. Take it easy.